Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Wow. Wow, what a performance by the Clemson Tigers. Absolutely dominating the Alabama Crimson Tide, 44 to 16. Unbelievable performance in California. Just a West Coast beatdown of epic proportions. It looked like we were having a heavyweight fight at the beginning of the first half, and it was going to be, one of those crazy shootouts, round four between these teams, and Alabama just. Where do we begin with them? Now, you know what? Where we should begin is actually with Clemson, because Clemson did this to Alabama. I heard Tua and Nick Saban, those guys in their press conference, and I like Tua, but to sit up here and say that it's all y'all making mistakes and you beat yourselves, and no, sir, you don't get 30 points unanswered scored on you by beating yourself. Yes, you threw a pick six at the beginning of the game, but the Clemson kid did jump the route. You threw another pick that led to a touchdown. But when Clemson's able to convert third downs repeatedly, third and longs, by the way, repeatedly, finding one-on-one coverage, dominating with their young but very talented wide receivers, we see the result here. And look, there's so much to talk about, from Trevor Lawrence, the brilliant freshman quarterback, the outstanding wide receivers. But this game, even the coaching staff for Clemson, which Brett Venables' A1 game plan for him. This game was won in the trenches for Clemson. They absolutely dominated. Offensive line, well done. Pass protection, giving that freshman an opportunity to get comfortable, just like they did in the Notre Dame game. And people were cracking on Notre Dame, saying they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs, all this type of stuff. Clemson went and did the exact same thing to Alabama. So give Clemson the credit. Stop downing teams. Let's uplift some of these teams, these great teams. Clemson, first team ever to finish 15-0 in the modern era of college football. This is insanely impressive what they were able to do against one of the teams that people were talking about, Alabama being one of the all-time great teams. And look, a lot of things were dispelled in this bowl season. This narrative, and I'm a Texas fan, I'm a Big 12 guy. This narrative about Big 12 defenses are terrible and our numbers and all this type of stuff, but we're going against competent quarterbacks and these great offenses all the time. Well, it's funny, these SEC defenses facing, and I know Clemson's not a Big 12 team, but they're running a spread offense with a dynamic quarterback, and you see the troubles that it presents to even the best SEC defenses. I'm not an SEC hater. I still believe, top to bottom, the SEC is the best conference in college football, but by a slight margin. People play football too. Yes, the SEC, even with their number one and number two teams losing in dominant fashions, mind you, still got them there out of respect. But you got to look, Clemson far and away is the best team in the country by what they did. And people put points on the board against all these defenses. It doesn't. Alabama hadn't gotten stopped since the first half of the Oklahoma game. I mean, let's be real. They didn't stop anybody tonight. And we're talking about all these dudes on their defensive line and their linebackers in their secondary. The brother that fell down back there, who's supposed to be a top pick. Quentin Williams, all these guys. They even if you gave them a broom, would they have touched Trevor Lawrence? So this narrative that some of these folks out here are trying to push, and some of these fans are trying to push, knock it off. Back to analyzing the game. One in the trenches, one in recruiting. I have a lot of people come on this channel, people sending me emails that are recruiting nuts and are into it. And I told y'all we could have a whole nother YouTube channel about recruiting and tracking all this stuff. But tonight was a testament to what those people believe in, where some of these championships are won with some of these recruiting classes. You go back and look at what Clemson was able to do with all these freshmen that they brought in conjunction with what they've done in creating a factory over the last couple of years, consistently being ranked one or two in recruiting every single year, bringing in 5-star after 5-star, guys in the trenches. Because all these guys were highly rated guys, even coming out of high school. So we're seeing the impact of recruiting. And look, if we actually go, if I don't care if you go look at ESPN Top 100, Top 150, or Top 300, depending on what year. If you go look at 24/7, Scout, whoever. If you go and pull up who's finished in the top 5 in recruiting the last 10 years, it's the usual suspects, and it's the usual suspects that are in contention for playoff teams. Yes, you can, have, with great coaching and development, you can hang around and be in contention, every few years or so, like a Washington or Oregon or something like that. But overall, what we're seeing, because this is now 4th straight year we've seen Alabama Clemson, and that's a full recruiting cycle gone through, still the same people there. I get the head coaches still in place, but I mean both these teams have lost assistant coaches out the wazoo since this all stuff has started. So we do have to pay a lot of attention to recruiting. Texas fans, that's why we're going to talk about a lot of that in the offseason. Players we need to target to get us to this point, those elite guys that can give us a chance to contend while we develop the rest of the roster. I'm not saying Clemson had all 5 stars all over the place, but it does help when you have a few. When you have a few of those guys, a few of those game breakers, a few of those guys who are, you look at them coming out of high school, that's an NFL guy. You look at Justin Ross coming out of high school, he's an NFL receiver. If you look at Trevor Lawrence on the football, he's an NFL quarterback. He beat QB1 today. And I'm president of the Dwayne Haskins fan club. He's from where I'm from. Trevor Lawrence will be QB1, and he has to wait till 2021 to be eligible for the draft. So if you're a Clemson fan right now, you're like, whoa, the sky's the limit. He doesn't even have his grown man body yet. It's tough to speak on. But look, the other thing I want to say, just in terms of the game, credit to Dabo Swinney and the fun and the personalities that he allows his players to show, not only on the sideline, but you see in the post-game, pre-game stuff, just throughout the season. I feel like they have a lot of fun over there in Clemson. And Alabama, it has been the best college football program of my adulthood, which spans back to 2008. So the last 11 years. Sensational program. Alabama's been, the gold standard. The New England Patriots, making any comparison you want of how to be dominant, and they've dominated like any dynasty we've seen in college football history. With that being said, there's a certain level of anxiety and stress that comes in their program that comes from their leader. And you don't see that from Dabo Swinney. And I think that matters sometimes. Case in point, the fake field goal, which was one of the most horrific plays. I don't know what that was. It's one of the most horrific things I've ever seen in a football game, period, in a long time. To have some child, a.k.a. the kicker, running in there like a baby in a burning building into the Clemson defensive line while you have your third string quarterback. I mean, come on. It's just like one of those things that only happens out of stress and anxiety. If you're playing loose, it's like, if it's 4th and 6, we're behind, let's go for it. Let's rip it with Tua. We got Jerry Jeudy. We got Jacobs. We got all these studs out here. Let's rip it with our best guys. We go down. We tip our caps at the end of the day and keep it moving. We're still Bama. But to go out there and to do foolishness like that, and look, I've seen this from Nick before. Now, sometimes he's been fortunate because of certain situations. He tried a terrible fake punt. I'll never forget, he tried a terrible fake punt when we played them in the 2009 game, but we were stupid and ran our quarterback into the line too, and he got knocked out of the game, and there went our chances. But you see panic from him at times, very early in these football games. Alabama was right there neck and neck. They start to get a couple procedural penalties. They get knocked back. They miss extra points. Just things that are not necessarily buttoned up, that are typical of a Nick Saban team. And I look at Dabo Sweeney and just how loose guys are over there. You look at Dabo, his guys in the post game press conference, the personality that Christian Wilkins has, the personality that Clelin Ferrell has. Man, Ferrell's hilarious. He does the Suge Knight impersonation, Death Row Records, to all the recruits out there. Going back to the '96 Source Awards, what a reference for that young man. That was hilarious. Best part of the night for me. But overall, guys, just an impressive testament to Clemson, recruiting, trench play, and then what they've gotten in this young freshman quarterback. They've gotten something real special. I want to say, those of us who, again, follow recruiting, watch these Elite 11 camps, these 7-on-7, the opening, all the things that they're doing out here that are not just highly publicized, but a lot of visibility in terms of camera. These are big production events. And I think it's actually, in a weird way, helped these guys in their transition to college in terms of the pressure. Because those events, if you watch them, it is a reality TV show. It is pressure packed. I felt like going into Clemson spring game even when Hunter Johnson was still there before he transferred to Northwestern, and Kelly Bryant was still there, and I'm like, I already know everything I need to know about Trevor Lawrence. I watched him. I know his family, all that type of stuff, from the camera being in his face for 8 weeks or however long it was on the Elite 11 stuff, all the way from when they were being selected to when he was QB1 going in, the whole bit. Jake Fromm too. They had all these shows and things that they do. I feel like these guys, they're just used to having that lens on them, that spotlight on them the whole time. And I think ultimately, if you're that guy, you're going to perform. You're going to shine through. Your talent, your God-given ability will come through. And him being in a perfect situation in a veteran team, especially up front, to protect him and just let him rip the football and be the elite prospect that he is very, very telling. So y'all let me know in the comments what y'all thought about tonight's game. Just from my view, we'll see what happens moving forward in this offseason, how teams, recruit against these folks. And if we can kind of break up this Clemson-Alabama thing, they're still, both of them are still separated at the top from the other teams. But tonight, Clemson separated themselves from Alabama. Remember to follow me on social media as we continue to grow the channel. John and I, my UT partner, will be back with some great UT content tomorrow. Really looking forward to our show and posting tomorrow. Appreciate you guys as always. Appreciate all you guys who have followed us college football wise all season long. Thank you. Appreciate y'all. Have a good night.